What's up everybody, we're back in Uldir with another raid guide, and today we're taking a look at Zek'voz on Mythic difficulty. So I'll be going over all the different mechanics, how to handle them, and our overall tactic for this fight. So for this fight you want 2 tanks, 4 to 5 healers, and a healthy mix of range and melee DPS. And if it's possible, you want one of your tanks to be either a DK or a Demon Hunter for mass grip. It is doable without, but having one makes it so much easier. So the overall mechanics from Heroic to Mythic haven't changed all that much. It's just that they've been smooshed together, if you will. The old Phase 2 is gone and has been combined with the old Phase 1, and the old Phase 3 is now Phase 2. So it's now a 2-phase fight. Phase 1 lasts from 100% to 40% and is, as I previously mentioned, a combination of Heroic Phase 1 and 2. So in Phase 1 you will have to deal with both type of ads at the same time, as well as the I-beams, Roiling Deceit, and the Surging Darkness. So a bit more hectic, but it is very predictable. So let's take a look at Zek'voz. So before you start the actual fight, you want to mark out approximately where the free Nerubian ads spawn, and an additional mark a bit away from the raid, which you will need in Phase 2. Tank the boss in the middle of the free ad marks. It makes dodging Surging Darkness a bit easier. Make sure to face the boss away from the raid when he does his Void Lash Shatter combo. We tank swapped after the whole combination was done. I've seen some people swap tank after Shatter, but we didn't feel like that was needed. You deal with I-beams and Roiling Deceit the same way as you do in Heroic. Spread a bit before I-beams and drop Roiling Deceits far away from the raid. We dropped most of our Deceit pools near the entrance and the sides for the first half of the fight, and the rest of them more towards where the boss stands before you pull him. Just make sure to not drop any Deceit pools near the 4th mark, which you will need to be safe in Phase 2. On top of this, if you aren't dodging Surging Darkness or spreading for I-beams, you should always aim to be stacked behind the boss to ease up healing and ad management. So shortly after the first I-beams, your first set of ads will spawn. So you have the Silhouetted Warriors and Nerubian Void Weavers. They will spawn at the same time, so dealing with them gets a bit tricky at first. What we did was simply crowd control the Nerubian ads in the back, indicated by our green and purple marks. Pull the boss on top of the Nerubian ad closest to where the Silhouetted Warriors spawn, indicated by our orange mark. The raid stacked up behind the boss right after the I-beam, so that if fixated by the Silhouetted Warriors, the warriors would stay stacked a bit more and we would simply mass grip them together. And following this, we used 2 AoE stuns followed up by a Vortex and a Ring of Peace. The DPS should stand inside the Ring of Peace to not get hit by the ads, and if needed and possible, use yet another Ring of Peace following the first one. And when the Silhouetted Warriors were around 30%, we moved all melee DPS and the boss to one of the CC'd Nerubian ads and started nuking it down, while our ranged finished off the Silhouetteds. Once dead, we finished off the last Nerubian, moved the boss into the middle of the marks, and rinse repeat. You will need a stun/interrupt order for any Nerubian ads that's up, and whichever tank isn't currently tanking Zek'voz should have aggro on that ad in case a cast goes off. So after you've finished off the first set of ad, it's just rinse repeat with Surging Darkness, Roiling Deceit, and I-beams. However, 2 minutes later, the second set of ads will spawn, and this time they will be combined with a Surging Darkness, which makes it a bit tricky. We did the exact same thing here as we did with the first set of ads, but we made sure everyone saved their cooldowns for this pack, as it is the only tricky ad spawn and you want to burn them down fast. So we used all cooldowns we had. Some people even used the engineering grenade, the fried bombs, just to make sure they died as fast as possible. So to clarify, you can use all your cooldowns on pull, but when they get up the second time, you want to make sure to save them for the second set of ads. And again, following this, when you've killed the ads, it's just rinse repeat. 2 minutes later, the third set of ads spawn. You should transition into Phase 2 shortly after the third wave of ads. In Phase 2, you will deal with everything from Phase 1 apart from the ads, and just like in Heroic, you need to deal with the ever-increasing raid damage from Overload and the Orb of Corruption. So we position the boss again in the middle of the 3 marks to ease Surging Darkness dodging. We had a set order for who soaks the Orb of Corruption and when. This is where the fourth mark comes into play. For us, this was the red mark, or a cross, if you will. If the mark is safe and no one has dropped a deceit pool there, you should have the first player who soaks the orb to aim it toward that mark. If done correctly, the next orb should drop down on the red mark, and any player who soaks it after should just aim it against the wall to keep it on that mark. So if you do it correctly, it'll just stay in place so everyone knows where to run and when to soak. Just like in Heroic, the player that picks up the orb will deal 100% damage and get mind controlled after a little bit. We had that player run out of the raid a few sec before getting mind controlled to avoid the AoE fear. We then grip the mind control player back into the boss, stunned, and kill that player. Other than that, there's not that much to say about the last phase. We popped Bloodlust when our second player had soaked an orb, and we just nuked away. Nuke enough and the loot is yours. The hardest part of this encounter is really the ads and figuring out how best to deal with them. But once you've gotten that down, it should be nothing but loot ahead. Hope this helped you out, and if you have any questions at all, make sure to hit me up in the comments below. And as always, if you like these kind of videos, hit that subscribe button, leave me a like, and ring that notification bell and switch it to all. Thanks for watching everyone, and I will see you next time.